Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another one of our great podcasts called Phil's Antarctic Expeditions, or Adventures, I should say. This is technically number 12, because last week we did a very special one with a lady called Vonna Keller, who's been to Antarctica for quite a number of years, over a period of time. But this one is taking us way back into the 1970s, to Phil's special time. Phil, back in the 70s, you talked to us many times through all of these multiple podcasts about your life and death experiences. Do you have any more life and death experiences that we might want to talk about on this, our 12th podcast?
Matter of fact, I do.
Oh, how unusual is it for that? Another life and death experience. Okay, set the scene. What's going to happen? Oh, no, don't tell us what happens, but set the scene.
Right, the scene is summer, field work.
Summer.
1977.
So you went in 76.
And the summer of 77.
So that's November, December, January, 76.
15 months.
Yeah, okay. So
Right.
Yeah.
Last summer was spent doing survey work,
Right.
which was really good because I was flying around in choppers all around the Antarctic, specifically in Enderby Land.
Which
Yes.
is?
That's about 500 kilometres west of Mawson.
So that's heading more towards South Africa as opposed to Madagascar.
Yes.
So it's quite a way out of it. So
Yeah,
you have to get there. You said
Sure.
that they have to fly you there or whatever. So
Yes.
it's a big operation. Isn't it?
There's a whole story on how we got there.
Mhm.
More adventures with that we'll cover another time.
Oh, he doesn't want to talk about it. Oh,
I
a
don't.
bit sussy. All right. Apparently you said that they take the big diesel bulldozers and bring all the stuff up.
The
Like
bulldozers came out during the winter to set up the summer field base called Mount King.
Oh, Mount King. Yes, that's what you
Yes.
said. Yes. Here you are. It's the warmer time of the year, and you've set up at this new base, Mount King. And what's your objective to do while you're there?
I was working in with 4 Bureau of Mineral Resource geoscientists, 3 geologists and 1 other geophysicist.
And a partridge in a pear tree?
Yes.
Just checking.
They were all summer tourists.
Right. Yeah, that's what you. Did they have a bit of a thing? No, you guys just a summer too.
That's right, we did.
Okay.
So the geologist's job was to inspect as much of the rock outcrops, obviously where there was snow. Geologists couldn't do much.
Is that to look for mineral deposits or geographical geological formations?
They weren't there specifically to learn about mineralogy or anything like that. They just want to find out what was there. It's all a lot of unknowns.
Mhm.
What was the geology of this area? And there's lots of mountains and rocky outcrops for them to work with.
Yeah. So it's basically a holiday camp. You just go out and just chip
If
rocks
you
all
say
day.
so.
You're
So
discovering new places.
So we had access to 3 helicopters,
Hughes 500.
Hughes 500.
Oh,
No interrupting. No interrupting.
Oh, damn, that's my whole job. What am I supposed to do here then? Okay, Hughes
Yeah,
500,
that's
which
it.
are zippy, fast little
Yes, they cruise about 90 kilometres an hour.
It's not very fast.
90 knots. And they would fly us around all over the place. The pattern was we'd get up in the morning, Mount King, we'd have our meeting to decide what to do for the day. First off would be the weatherman, because weather is everything down there.
Absolutely, yes.
Now, it turns out in this particular season, we'd had a lot of good weather. So
What's unusually good weather? Because you've got to be more specific. What does that mean?
Not too overcast, so you didn't get whiteouts and things like that.
So nice, bright, sunny days, almost.
Generally bright, sunny days. He'd give us a report.
Yep.
We'd decide what to do, and the decisions were made by the head geologists, who would say, right, this is the plan for the day.
So would you have a map of the area? And
Oh,
say,
yes.
I'm going to this one. The pilots would see it and say, okay, I can do that one. The geologist would say, I need to go here and here, because they'd be busy. The pilots would be busy all day.
Yes, it was more or less like that. Between us all, we'd work out what we wanted to do.
Mm.
Bob Tingy, he was the head geologist. He would say, we want to work this area here, and then we'd discuss how we're going to do it.
So you were basically on the cloth tails of the geologists. They were there to do this, and you just fed in around them.
Yeah, well, we collaborated together.
Yeah.
So often they would say, right, this is the area, where I would go. They'd take us out, they'd drop me off at a certain location. The geologists would fossick around
With the little hammers.
with their hammers. That was their job. And then they'd fly around to all sorts of other locations and leave me in the one spot, because doing the magnetic readings is time consuming.
You know, we're talking fairly early in the morning because you'd obviously have to get going.
Yes.
Would they obviously have a mess there? You'd eat, you get
Yes.
the rations and...
In fact, it was a mess area where we had our meeting.
Right. But you'd have to pack up your choppers with all your gear and things like that.
That's right.
So that's it's quite an exercise in getting yourself ready to go.
What I'd often do is the night before, I'd pack the chopper that I was using, so that the next morning I could just get up and it's all done.
Well, wouldn't the chopper pilot be a bit upset about that? He said,
No.
You can't do that. That's too heavy. Or it should be on this side.
We already knew what we were doing.
Okay, that's right. Good.
In the morning, we decide where we're going. They go, first thing, they drop me off at a location.
Right.
They might leave a geologist there to have a look around and chip at
Fossick
rocks.
around?
Yes, fossick around, yes. And then they pick him up, and off they go to places all around the place, and I'd be busy doing my magnetic readings, which were a bit time consuming. Yeah, it'd take me probably something like half an hour to set them up, and then they didn't have to settle in. You would just
Start taking readings. Okay.
Yes.
And would you do several readings within an hour, or would you just do one every, so?
No, you just do them at random times, but each time you did it, you'd note the time. I had watches.
Yeah.
Set to Universal Standard Time.
So you'd have a precise time
Yes.
when you're taking these readings.
Generally, I'd picked a spot, and you'd have documented the exact spot. And sometimes, if there was a trig point, I could work out from that where it was, a surveyor's trig point. If not, I had to use theodolites.
That's just to get the actual...
To get the location, and I also needed an accurate direction of true north.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's more complicated in the sense...
That was a bit more complicated.
Because you wouldn't be using radio direction finder to get an exact fix?
No such thing.
Okay. So how do you get a fix then, where you are in the world?
You use theodolites, and then later on you had to use the star almanac to calculate.
You do a sextant.
Yes,
Wow.
Sunshots, all that sort of thing.
How many spots would you get through in a day, say?
Generally one.
Just one. So you set up, do that, do the readings, and then you collapse it all down again, and then get picked up and go home.
Yeah, you'd radio the chopper and say, "Come and get me. I'm ready."
Come and get the chopper.
Well, what actually happened? You say, "I'm ready whenever you are."
I'll see you in a couple of days.
And when it was convenient, they'd come and get you.
Right.
And then you'd pack everything up, and then off you go.
So would you set up a tent as well, because you never know when you're going to get picked up? So you need some sort of
I had always
shelter.
had a full survival gear with me,
Yep.
including a tent. There were sometimes I did set it up, but not always.
All right. Okay, so you've set the scene of what
Yeah.
you're doing. It's a busy, busy time. Lots of people. I mean, like you said, the population has exploded
Yeah.
down there. They're all out in Enderby Land, buzzing around, based out of the Mount King base, which they'd set up literally prior to everybody coming.
Yes.
So it's a fairly well organised machine.
Oh, yes.
And there's
yes.
radio schedules between everybody and
Yes.
things like that.
Communications were very important.
Yep. Now, just one thing. How did you have your aerial? Did you light on the ground or did you stick it up in the air?
Sometimes you drape it between rocks. So it was a matter of at every location you experiment to see what gave you the best reception. So all different ways. And I'll give you the pattern. You'd fly out, do your readings. They do other things. They come out, pick you up, and you go back to Mount King Base.
Yeah, have a bit of a night out there.
One time in the mess, Bob got this bright idea. He said, "We can save time."
Bob Tingle.
Bob Tingy.
Yeah, BT.
Yeah, that's him. He said, "What we're going to do, we're going to drop Phil off at a location
It's like, let's just drop Phil.
and leave him there. We're not going to pick him
Yeah,
up."
that's what it sounds like. Yeah, poor old
And
Phil.
the next day they'd come out and move me to another location. This saved them the time it took to come
Oh,
and pick
right.
me up.
Okay.
So this
gotcha.
hadn't been done before.
Okay, so this is to base you somewhere and then just move your base to the next location
The
rather than
next
zipping
day.
you backwards and forwards. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds like a logical thing to do.
Yeah, so,
You think so, but it's just Phil. Who cares?
yeah, so
He likes being buying stuff.
I didn't get the luxury of going back to the base and having a proper bed
Yeah, and meal, I suppose.
and meal. They couldn't leave me alone with that. So
Yeah.
I got a companion. In this case, it was one of the Mawson radio operators.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a good, logical thing to do because a person by themselves is more, the risks are higher.
There's no way
There's
they
no
would have
backup.
left me overnight
Yeah,
on my
yeah.
own.
Yeah.
During a day, they did sometimes, but not overnight. My companion for this little jaunt, his name was John Trethui. We called him Toothy. Yeah.
Did you guys get on?
Yes. Trethui was a bit of a mouthful,
Yeah.
so to speak. So he got Toothy.
Toothy and Peach.
Toothy and Peach.
Right.
Yeah. So him being a radio operator meant I didn't have to concern myself with the communications. He could handle all that while I did all the other stuff. Okay, so we're off on this jaunt. They dropped us first at a place called Mount Breckenridge. Did all the readings, all went well.
So it's a small mountain, maybe?
Oh, moderate-sized mountain. Could have been, I don't know, 1,200 metres high or something like that.
Okay.
Then they moved me to another one called Mount Codrington. That was a very rugged mountain.
In one day? This is in one day, or is it over a couple of days?
A couple of days.
Okay, so you stay there for a couple of days, move to the next one,
And
move to the next one. Okay.
Yeah. So then we came to the next location, Latham Peak.
Latham Peak. Not Dante's Peak, but Latham Peak.
It was worse than Dante's Peak.
Oh.
Dropped us off.
Now, talk me through the drop-off, because I'm looking at these mountains thinking, geez, they're rugged. I mean, they must have surveyed a landing-type spot.
We'd always pick a good landing spot. It had to be reasonably level, clear enough that the choppers weren't in danger of hitting things. Now, that Mount Codrington that I told you about was so rugged and so gusty, it actually took the choppers the better part of an hour to land because the wind was so gusty. Pilots couldn't land it for about half an hour.
I suppose that would be start to become an issue for the chopper pilots because they started to run out of fuel.
Oh, well, they had to watch that very carefully.
Yeah.
Fortunately, in the Antarctic, the choppers actually run very much more efficiently than they do in temperate climates.
Because of the cold.
The cold air just works better with aircraft.
It's more dense, more lift.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so that's a good thing to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the first mountain you were there for the day or overnight? Or
Yes.
the next one there was another overnighter?
Yeah. And then they flew us off to the third location, Latham Peak. Now, Latham Peak was not a very rugged mountain at all. It was only about 1 kilometre high. In this particular case, we were, if not on the top, very close to it.
Okay.
It wasn't always the case, but in this case we were. And it was nicely snow-covered just to make it a bit easier. Choppers landed, dropped us off. Beautiful night. We thought, oh, this is great. No wind.
So it was like an ideal place. What are you moaning about?
ideal.
What are you moaning about? It looks like a perfect place.
It
But were
wasn't.
you landing on rock or were you landing on snow?
Sometimes we landed on rock. This particular mountain, we landed on snow. So Toothy set up communications while I set up the tent. After the camp was set up, I had just enough daylight left to do some readings. Then it got too dark, so we hopped in the tent.
So hang
made
on,
a
so
stew.
just before you go into the tent and have your stew, magnetic readings. I mean, how do you record them? B, what sort of readings would you be getting? Just as sort of an example,
One of our previous podcasts, we dealt with some of the instruments.
Yeah.
In this case, there was 3. A quartz horizontal magnetometer,
Yeah.
QHM. These are all optical. This is back in the day. It could read the torsion on a twisted quartz fibre, the amount that the magnet turned when you spun the instrument around, gave you the horizontal component of the magnetic field.
Right.
We had another one which is a balanced vertical one,
Yeah.
which gave you a measurement of the vertical component of the magnetic field. And we had a declinometer which measured the angle between true north and magnetic north.
Oh, okay. So you had almost like a 3-dimensional picture
That gave you
of the magnetic
That's exactly
environment
right.
at the time. Wow, that's quite interesting, isn't it? And so these would be recorded on a piece of paper or a book.
I had forms to
Yeah.
fill out all the relevant numbers.
Yeah.
I didn't get the answer on the spot. You needed calculators and run through equations and everything. But I got the raw data.
Right,
That was the main thing.
Okay. So you got the first couple of good readings. Sun's gone down finally.
Then we cooked up a nice stew just outside the tent. Yes.
You set up a little
stove.
cooking area for that's like the cooking area.
Yeah.
So it's real Boy Scout stuff, you're out there.
Yeah, so you
cook
put
your
the dehydrated stuff in there, melt some snow,
Yeah.
throw in, and you cook up a stew. Very nice at first.
Oh, well, that's
Then we dragged it inside. We had a big feast of stew.
sounds really exciting.
Really exciting.
So it's like a big pot of stew.
Big pot of stew.
Right.
Now, it was such a big pot, we didn't fill it up.
Yeah.
And we ate that, climbed into bed. I got my latest novel.
Oh, what was that then? 50 Shades of Yellow? No?
If it had been written, maybe. But, it was Lord of the Rings.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And so you're in the mountains with reading The Lord of the Rings, which had some episode going through the mountains.
It did.
It started lightning storms and everything else. So that's not a good preliminary prelude to what could possibly happen on the side of a mountain.
I had it all planned for the next day. I was get up, we'd have a bit of brekkie, I'd do the magnetic readings, Toothy would do the radio skit, and then probably go exploring. Nice.
Yeah. But
What could go wrong?
what could possibly go wrong? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Phil Wolter. What could possibly go wrong is not an expression he uses lightly. What could possibly go wrong?